The 7th of October 1571. The Gulf of Patras is cramped water, boxed in by coastline, and both fleets are already committing. Generalissimo Don John of Austria, Holy League Fleet Command, holds the center in Real. Provveditore Sebastiano Venier, Venetian Command, steadies the left. Captain General Marcantonio Colonna, Papal Squadron, anchors the right. Ahead sit the Venetian galleasses' 6 floating gun platforms while 200-plus galleys dress into a hard, straight line. Drums beat, oars bite, every banner means a kingdom. Every mistake becomes boarding range. But let's change one thing. A Boeing E-3 Sentry, AWACS, USAF-E-3A from 1977, is suddenly overhead an airborne command post on a Boeing 707-320. It is 46.6 meters long with a 44.4 meters wingspan and stands 12.7 meters tall. 4 TF-33PW100 turbofans push it to 855 km per hour max, 800 km per hour cruise, up at 12,500 meters. It ranges 7,400 kilometers without blinking, and with refueling it can loiter all day. On its back, an AN/APY-1 pulse Doppler radar with 360 degrees coverage, tracking hundreds of targets. Crew: 2 pilots plus 13 to 19 mission specialists on consoles and radios. The cannons below are about to get live updates. Awkward for everyone. Across the line, the Ottoman fleet is not a speed bump. Kaputan Pasha Ali Pasha, Ottoman Fleet Command, drives the center in Sultana. On the wing, Ulik Ali, Ottoman Right Wing Command, holds a tight, fast formation built to wrap a flank. Mehmed Sirocco, Ottoman Left Wing Command, hugs the shore, looking for gaps. They bring roughly 230 war galleys and dozens of smaller craft, packed with janissaries, archers, sailors, and rowers' men as the engine and the weapon. Bow guns fire first at a few hundred meters, then it's grapples, ramps, and handwork at point blank. Their whole method is simple: hit hard, board, and roll the line. At roughly 6 o'clock, both fleets finish forming and begin closing. At 6 o'clock, the E-3's APY-1 paints 287 surface returns in one sweep, 2 main lines, closing at 2 to 4 knots, nearest contact 18.6 nautical miles ahead. The scope tags 3 dense knots, center, left, right. Captain Mike Harris, aircraft commander, calls, General Quarters. Mission Crew Chief MSGT Elena Ruiz reads out bearing and spacing. Lieutenant Jeff Park builds a crew track file anyway because a 16th century fleet doesn't file a flight plan. At 6:02, Ruiz pushes a voice relay down to Don John of Austria. Ottoman left wing is drifting shoreward by 1.2 miles. The center is steady. Ulik Ali is holding back 0.8 miles to pounce. At 6:04, Don John signals by flag to advance the 6 Venetian galleasses 400 meters ahead and angle them 15 degrees. At 6:07, the first strike lands from beyond visual range by 1571 standards. Gallas La Capitana opens at roughly 1,000 meters. The first broadside walks through Ottoman forward elements. On Sultana, Kaputan Pasha Ali Pasha sees ships splinter with no warning shot he can hear, only sudden sprays of timber and bodies. He searches for the guns. He finds empty water. Formation tightens, then wobbles, as 3 galleys sheer off at once. At 6:10, Ali Pasha orders the center to surge. 30 galleys increase oar cadence, trying to cross the last 800 meters before the galleasses reload. On the Ottoman right, Ulik Ali signals a flanking push with 40 galleys, aiming at Colonna's right wing. At 6:12, on the E-3, Lieutenant Park calls, right wing hook in progress, bearing 110. Harris banks 10 degrees to keep the whole Gulf in the radar's 360 degrees picture. MSGT, Ruiz vectors Colonna by voice and flag relay. Shift 12 galleys right, hold 2 in reserve behind the line. The modern crew says it like they're ordering lunch. At 6:15, the Holy League responds too early to make sense to the Ottomans. Colonna's right wing slides as a block, closing a 600-meter gap that doesn't exist yet at sea level. At 6:18, Mehmed Sirocco on the Ottoman left commits 25 galleys toward Venir, hugging the shore inside 300 meters of the shallows. He expects confusion. Instead, he gets geometry. Venir's leftmost 10 galleys angle inward 20 degrees and trap his lead elements under crossfire. At 6:22, aboard an Ottoman galley under Sirocco, Reis Hassan Celebi hears only impact iron through planks, then screaming. No messenger arrives. No flag explains why the enemy knows. Somewhere above, a calm American voice mispronounces Colonna and still gets it right. At 6:25, the E-3 crew shifts from warning to targeting priorities. Ruiz marks Ulik Ali's 40-galley hook as the decisive threat and calls for concentration. 6 galleasses plus 20 nearby galleys focus that wing first. At 6:31, the galleasses delivered 2 more coordinated broadsides at 700 to 900 meters. 5 Ottoman galleys in Ulik Ali's lead group are disabled, oars shattered. Bows stove in before they ever touch Colonna's line. At 6:36, Ali Pasha drives Sultana straight for Don John's reel anyway. It is brave and completely on brand. At 6:39, reel and Sultana collide. Boarding bridges drop. Arquebuses fire at 30 meters. The modern side isn't magical. By 6:40, Ruiz is already counting down a reel limit. Batteries and radios are fine, but they have no spare parts, no tanker, and only one airframe if a TF-33 coughs. The all-seeing eye goes blind. By 6:45, 5 Ottoman galleys are effectively out of the fight and Ulik Ali's flank attack stalls. The battle compresses into a center-border brawl under a single, relentless radar picture. Under that picture, the center breaks first. By 9:12, the Ottomans lose 188 galleys captured or sunk, plus 34 smaller craft. The Holy League loses 12 galleys sunk. Ottoman aircraft destroyed. 0. Holy League aircraft destroyed. 0. Ali Pasha is killed on Sultana. Mehmed Sirocco is killed near the shoals. Ulik Ali flees with 28 galleys. The E-3 Sentry takes no hits, burns roughly 18,000 pounds of fuel, and has 5 hours 10 minutes of endurance left. Missiles remaining. 0, because it brought none, and yes, that's the joke. Don John survives and reports a decisive fleet kill to King Philip II. Venir and Colonna both survive and send the same to the Venetian Senate and Pope Pius V. This new reality is settled by mid-morning. Without most of its galley fleet, the Ottoman Empire would lose sea control in the Ionian for the 1571 to 1572 season. So relief convoys to their garrisons would shrink and coastal raids would spike. Without Ulik Ali's intact core to rebuild around, the rapid Ottoman reconstitution that historically followed Lepanto would stall, pushing Istanbul toward a defensive navy and fewer offensive sorties in 1572. With a cleaner win and fewer league losses, Venice would bargain harder and earlier, so the next treaty would likely lock in wider navigation rights and blunt Ottoman toll revenue in the eastern Mediterranean within a year. With confidence and captured guns, Spain would reallocate more hulls west sooner, tightening anti-privateer patrols and accelerating Atlantic convoy dominance through the 1570s. The losing side's decline shows up as fewer safe crossings and fewer crews. The winning side's dominance shows up as more ships sailing, more often, under one plan. And that's the scary part. The E-3 doesn't fire a shot yet, it turns a chaotic melee into scheduled destruction. So what happens next if the Ottomans decide the only answer is to hunt the eye in the sky with fireships, archers, and sheer luck? Does the Sentry survive long enough to matter? Or does one bad day erase the advantage? Or what do you think would happen? And if you're curious what would happen if a modern attack submarine showed up at Trafalgar and started deleting ships from beyond the horizon, check out the video on screen now. Thanks for watching.